what we see here in the chapel. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone, and aloha. Welcome to our quarterly board meeting, board town hall meeting. Thank you, Reverend Margie. You're always there for me. You always have my back. So if I fall, will you catch me? Okay. See. So my slides are not quite the way I wanted. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. We'll show that up there. But the way we always start out is by lighting the Christ candle. We light the Christ candle in the name of Jesus the Christ. And we say, thank you, God. And the next thing that we do is we invite up the illustrious Reverend Tim Lytle to lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Ralph. And thank you for joining us. And those of you online, thank you for joining us. So, let us start with prayer. I invite you to take a deep breath. And we know in this moment that where we are, the presence of God is. That God is in charge. Blessing this meeting, blessing all that we talk about, blessing those who present. We are so grateful. And we give thanks, and so it is. Amen.
So it is. Thank you, Reverend Tim. So the first slide we have is one that says Unity Church of Hawaii Guiding Principles and Agreements, and we're using number 5 to focus on. We refrain from making assumptions, gossip, personal attacks, and side talk. So in our quest to stay above the line and in thinking about nonviolent communication, we lean on this to know that when we have a meeting like this, we come with open hearts and open minds, not with assumptions, not with things that we heard from gossip, no side talk, and no personally attacking each other. So we do what we do in love, and that's the reason for this slide. Thank you. I thought I saw 2 people getting married here for a moment there. Next slide, please. And I want to say thank you to Kathy. You know, Kathy Kaiser, she has a huge job, a huge responsibility, because if we wait till the last minute to come up with our slides, she's like, okay, you're going to get what you're going to get, and don't blame it on me. Kathy, thank you so much for what you do. Some board news, important stuff. We've begun posting minutes and financials on the bulletin board for the public. Yes, you may see it behind a month or 2. Thursday's information from last Thursday's meeting is on board today. So we are doing our best, and thank you, Jerry, for the job that you do in being the secretary and getting things out there. Sacred service. So sacred service is something that's always important to us. I believe we still have some slots open for ushers. And anything else around the church that you think, if it comes to you, it's yours to do? Is it? Okay. So sacred service, just be in and of oneself, giving to the beloved community. Though we are in a quiet place, there's still much to be done around the campus. So is it Christy Brandt and Charlie? They come here that I know of every week, several days a week, and they work tirelessly to make our campus look beautiful. And if you are in the area, you have a Saturday when you don't have anything to do, and you don't want to go down to the beach, come on over to our yard and do some raking or some mowing or some, I can see those bushes right there outside the chapel. They're more grown than I am now. So they could use some clipping. So just come on by and help them out. They're really wonderful people, and they're here all the time. Let's consider our sacred service not only to our community within these walls, but to our beloved community as a whole. So there are many people out there who, as Reverend Tim tells us all the time, they have maybe less than what I have or less than what you have. So, you know, we always try to do what Jesus would do. You know, what we do to the least of us, we do also to Christ. And so giving and being there, things like volunteering at the kitchen, the soup kitchen, or one of the homeless shelters or houseless shelters, anything that you can do to help someone else along the way. We are our brother's keeper. So I've heard that a lot of times. Well, I'm not my brother's keeper. Yes, you are. Amen. So just keep that in mind. Next slide, please. All right. So our partners in tithes. This slide, yes, Jeff.
Going back to the last slide,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have a suggestion. We need them. Thank you. If you need more, let me know. This one, I'm sure I've donated this one too. You know, the board meetings, they're recorded. And it's less informative to get the board minutes than the recording of the board meetings. Not all board meetings. Well, the ones that are, that would be great if we should share those.
So say that again, because I interrupted you. I apologize.
You're so welcome. We would like to have this be cooperative. So board meetings are usually recorded online. People can watch them. I don't know if they're recorded, but you can watch online. And I think it'd be so easy to just take that recording and post them as well. It's nice to have the summary, the board meeting summary. But if you can see what the people are actually saying, it just makes it more intimate, more personal. So I'm suggesting that.
Well, thank you for that. And just so you know, the board meetings, everyone is invited to the board meetings. The board meetings are not closed unless we have what's called an executive session. And in those cases, you know, that has to do with personnel or some type of finances that we can't divulge that information out to everyone. But our regular board meetings that you'll find on eCampus, and then you go to the board meeting site, you can attend those board meetings. We ask that you don't offer information or questions during the board meetings because we have to be able to get through the business of the board meeting. But otherwise, you can absolutely sit in and listen in and then get some ideas that you can come to us later on about, or email us or talk to us here in the chapel. Yes.
And it's the Thursday before the last Sunday. It's not necessarily always the fourth Thursday, but it's the Thursday before the last Sunday of the month.
Thank you. Yes. Anything else on that? Okay, so the board news that we have here is Partners in Tithes. Every month, we practice what we preach by tithing. We tithe here when we give to this church, either from our pockets or from our sacred service or from some other talent. But as a whole, this church tithes to our local charities. January, it was to Rise, if anybody knows anything about Rise. February, it was Alulike. March, it was Lunalilo Home. April was the Institute for Human Services, as we also know as IHS. In May, it was Work Now Hawaii. June is Never Quit Dreaming. And I believe July, we're tithing to River of Life Ministries. And they provide meals and other ministerial type things out in the community. This is how we give back to the beloved community. Thank you. You're welcome. What we're hoping is that at some point, some of these folks that we are tithing to outside of these walls will come and say hello to you all during a town hall meeting or something, just so you can put a face to a name. Next slide, please. So we have audiovisual upgrades that are continuing, new chapel lighting and, and monitors. Facilities Committee is identifying and correcting a variety of areas of concern. So they welcome your assistance on the grounds. But there are a few things that you'll be hearing about coming up, most likely during our fundraising slide, that so you can know what's the need is here in our home. Voila, fundraising. And guess what? I don't have my phone. I need my phone so I can see what the 3 points are. But can you? It's right there, right behind in the green room. Just say something while I go get my phone. Oh, thank you. All right. So there are 3 major times that we'll be doing fundraising. That's why I didn't want to. I didn't know this one was coming.
Okay, I was at the board meeting. That's the only reason I know this, which you could be at the board meeting too, as Ralph expressed. The 23rd of August, we're having a fundraising with Marcia Zinga Major and Lucy Lynch, which they're doing a show here for us. It's called The Diamond Necklace. You heard about it earlier today. And 100% of that is going to the church as a fundraiser. Then we're going to have another fundraiser towards the end of the year.
Money raised at the end of the year for go to operating budget.
So operating budget. As you write your checks to get your tax benefits at the end of the year, our intent is to put that money directly into our reserve fund, which will which will go towards our operating budget. Yes.
So, my name is Sean. Pleased to meet you. If you ever need any verbal, maybe counseling on profit sizing to limit profits, to steer in a direction that is equal to today and the tasks that we have coming at us, or directions that we would like to go to, some options that would be extremely useful for the environment, the citizens around, so that you could take care of a larger group, or just the whole thing as a whole, like apartments, all of them. I'm a good person to talk to. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Sean. So the big fundraiser, the Kahuna, will run from about April to July, and this will be to raise funds for deferred facility repairs. And I'm reading here, the usual 10% tithe will not apply to those donated funds. So those are the usual 10% tithe will not apply to those donated funds. Yes, please.
So when people give to the church, give to operating expenses, or give to the reserve fund, money that goes into the reserve fund, when we use money from the reserve fund for our operating expenses, when we move it from reserve fund to like cover utilities, staff salaries, we tithe on that money once we pull it from the reserve fund. We tithe on any money that goes for operational expenses that comes in. We tithe on that. Our tithe is divided 3 ways. So like 3.5% goes to, or 3 1/3 goes to Unity Worldwide Ministries. 3 1/3% goes to Unity World Headquarters, which has Silent Unity and so forth. And 3 1/3% goes to what Ralph had been talking about, our community groups here on the island, because we recognize, and I'm going to say this in a particular way, this land, we owe a great deal of thanks for being here. This land was someone else's land. We are here to be ministering to this community. This is a way for us to in some way pay back to the community. So part of our mission is centered in, well, our mission statement is centered in God. We are transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. So we network with people who are making a positive difference in our world by tithing. It's all in solidarity with our mission. Some of these fundraisers, like the one that's going to happen in October, if I am correct, and please straighten me out, but I'm going on memory from the board meeting. The when is it?
April, July. The big one?
April, July of next year, pardon me. The spring fundraiser, that will be our big fundraiser. And from that, there will be monies that will be contributed to capital improvements, to building maintenance, restricted funds. We are not paying tithe on restricted funds. They go 100% for the purpose for which they were given. Because when you give to a restricted fund, you're saying it can only go for this specific purpose. That's the definition of a restricted fund. Therefore, we do not tithe on that amount. So when you're talking about not giving the 10%, that's when those donations will come in April through June of next year for restricted funds, or when you do provide for restricted funds now. Restricted or designated funds, and we have numerous ones. Sometimes people give to specifically to the music ministry or to youth and family ministries. When we give to our general operations, which is really a big, how do I want to put it? I mean, that's an area that right now we're having shortfall each month. But those monies who come in for operation expenses, those are tithed on. I hope that sufficiently answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Tim. So coming up next is, for our next slide, is our trusted treasury team. Cindy, if you're listening, we miss you, we love you, travel safe. But in your stead is the lovely Debbie Catania.
Yes, I'm really, really happy that we're able to have Cindy as our treasurer. She brings a wonderful energy and positivity to everything that the board does. And so this trusted treasury team, that is Cindy. And we are the beloved community. The key to abundance is meeting limited circumstances with unlimited thoughts. Okay, go. Next. Okay. I was hoping that you would be able to see this. Our receipts for the months of April, May, and June come from donations and our other income, which gives you $27,791 in April, $27,836 in May, and $27,488 in June. So we're pretty steady as far as our receipts are concerned. Next slide. Okay, our cost of direct revenue. Everybody asks, what is that? Those are our tithes. That's money that are disbursements that come directly from the money that we receive. So we receive donations, and then we tithe on those donations as part of our following our own principles. Yes, and credit card fees. And our expenses for the month of April was $40,280. So our total disbursements came out to $42,321. In May, cost of direct revenue was $1,772. Our expenses, $37,308. And our total disbursements were $39,080. For June, cost of direct revenue was $3,809. Our expenses, $37,163. So our total disbursements came out to $40,972. Our next. Okay, so that brings our net operating revenue for the month of April to in the bracket number of 14,530. In May, we were again in the brackets at 11,244. And then in June, in the brackets, the amount of 13,484. Next slide. So in total, our revenue for the second quarter was 83,000 and some. Our net operating revenue was 39,000 in the brackets. So we released 30,000 from our funds received in our reserve, bringing that net revenue down to a $9,000 number. I believe we took another 10,000 out during July, but this is all reported up until the month of June, which is the second quarter. Next slide. Okay, so our accounts, we have two major accounts, our checking account and then our restricted account. The restricted account, as Reverend Tim had mentioned, all of the monies that are designated to the restricted account are designated for those sole purposes, and we do not tithe on them because there's a requirement for that. But if you notice, the checking account balances went from 29,954 in April down to 17,333 in June. And then I've got more on the restricted fund. Can you, next slide? Oh, I was hoping that you would be able, hopefully you guys can see this. So what Reverend Tim was talking about, those designated funds, those funds that people identify that they would like their money to go to specifically are 2022 anniversary. Now I need to explain that. We have been trying to get the review done for 2022, and for many reasons we haven't been able to. So the money is still there. We will still we will complete the revenue, and whatever is left over can then be either moved into reserve, or we'll have to revisit that. We have a building maintenance fund. This is designated. So all of the designated funds are meant to go in and come out. They're not, because we also have restricted funds, which consists only of two, our capital improvements and our reserves. The intention for these funds are to build and hopefully make them big enough so that we can then have the ability to move when we want, or to capital funds will be for large building projects. This building maintenance in the designated fund are for immediate maintenance, say for the broken toilets in the women's bathroom. The roof. Okay, yeah, we had the roof done. Then we had a computer fund. This came from an anniversary fundraiser a while back. We still have $900. We still have costs related to computers that we can use. And so it remains there. For landscaping, we've had donations come in specifically to be used on landscaping. Media AV, you're able to see all of the improvements that we've had on the audiovisual capabilities of this church. The music fund, as Reverend Tim said, which this pays for our musicians. And those musicians, aside from Zamar are all volunteers. And I think that that's important to know that. That Zamar are
Musicians,
the
the band.
musicians, the drummer, our bass player, the guitarist, soloist, and the hula dancer. Those we do pay for them to be here. Okay. Wednesday night we have a music program where money is donated for the purpose of that Wednesday night music. And finally, youth education. We're trying to get the youth and family ministries off the ground, and we have money to be able to do that from a very generous donor. Thank you. Again, I'll go back to the restricted funds. These are for really large purposes. Capital improvements are for building purposes. Reserve are sort of for it's kind of like a savings account. It's like a savings account. Hopefully, we're able to build it enough. We've been using it because our receipts have not covered our expenses. Yes, it is a backup for operations. And can you go to the next slide? This is an explanation of the reserve fund. From last year, we had a carryover balance of $38,360. We collected from various sources, 586. Now, because this comes on our statement of financial position, the numbers are not cumulative. These are the numbers. This is the position or the state that account was in at the time during the month of April. At the end of the month of April, we had the carryover balance and the amount collected. Now, the amount spent in April and May. In April, we took $20,000 from the reserve to pay for, to offset our operating expenses. The difference between May and June is $10,000. So that means that $10,000 was taken from the reserve during the month of June to offset, again, our operating expenses. So our final source of revenue from the operating fund is the reserve is money coming in from dividends that we receive from the Endowment Foundation. The calculation for the Endowment Foundation is better explained by the person that, the people that are on the Endowment Foundation. I apologize. So currently, the total reserve fund, and this is at the end of June, is 32,829. Next. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, can you go back? In this small, there's fine print here that explains that in January, we received 11,412 from the Endowment Foundation, and then again in April, we received $12,416. So that endowment fund finally has grown enough so that we're receiving, dividends from it, and it's helping to, move our church forward as passive income. Next. Thank you. Question.
Do we have any monies coming from the several rooms that are down there? I'm concerned about those.
Yes. So that would be income. That would be income coming from ongoing groups. In the month of April, we received $1,020 from ongoing groups. In May, it was $740. In June, only $200. But that means that for the quarter, we received $1,960 from ongoing groups. Also, the counseling center, they have a regular stipend or
Allotment.
donation that they provide to us, their tithe of $600. And then the wellness center, we received for the quarter $1,817.
May I? So, in regards to the wellness center, that amount will be going up because the new director of the wellness center, Dr. Diana Ho, is, she just passed one of her board exams. So there's board exams even though she's graduated getting her doctorate in Chinese medicine. I'm on a mic. I'm on a mic. Can you not hear it? Okay. Let me talk louder. Okay. So the wellness center, we are getting money from that, allotted amounts, and that amount will go up. So it's on a schedule to go up. I won't go into all that explanation. And the counseling center, the counselor that we've had there is leaving. There's another counselor who's interested in the space. This last month, we've been renting space down here to the French school. And so there are more and more things starting to come in. So more and more things will happen. So we are paying attention to that, right? And regarding the endowment fund, for those of you who understand what this means, it's on a rolling 12-month average. So every month it's a different, so it increases. The amount that the endowment foundation distributes increases each quarter. It's an increasing amount. So, yeah.
Are we taking questions about finances then right now? Okay. I'll try to be brief. I have multiple questions. Sorry, I don't mean to take everybody's time, but I think these are really important questions. First of all, I'm on the finance committee for my condo board, so I've been learning quite a bit. And it might be just semantics, but what I thought was a reserve fund is maybe different from what the board is, because maybe you guys are calling it a capital improvement, but because a reserve fund is something that you don't touch and put into the operating budget. It's something that you are saving for these, you know, you do like a reserve study to see what kind of improvements are going to come up, because they are going to come up. We do need to have the roof done, we need to replace things or whatever it may be. And so you kind of plan for that and keep on saving money for those expected repairs and replacements. And so we're not supposed to have reserve fund is for that, not for using as a savings account. And again, it might just be, you know, semantics as you, the different labeling, but I am wondering, and this is a rhetorical question, maybe something for the board to think about, do we have a reserve study, a maintenance, you know, plan, you know, like a comprehensive one, because this building, these facilities are quite old. And so we're talking about electrical, plumbing, you know, HVAC, all of these things. And I don't need an answer right now, just.
I'm going to give
for
an
that one.
answer as soon as you're done.
Okay, well, I'm not done then.
May I?
Okay, go ahead.
Is that the first question?
Yeah.
So that's something we've brought up at the board, that we need a schedule of maintenance because we have a lot of deferred maintenance. So we need a schedule of when they have certain maintenance done. That's something I even talked about in our last board meeting. And we're talking about that being part of the capital improvements fund. You're right. We use the term reserve fund differently from your condo association. So the reserve fund is like a backup fund, you know, for our operating expenses and so forth. And you're absolutely right. When I was at Unity of Wichita, we put together a schedule. So we knew on what years we needed to do what, and we had an approximate cost for each one of those things, and that would be included in the budget. So it would be budgeted what to work on. So I agree with you 100%, and we agree with you. Next question you have.
Okay, if Jeff's the financial expert here, but if my math is correct, the expenditures that we've had over the last 3 months come up to about $50,000. And what the contributions from the endowment fund we were able to get is not going to be able to keep up with that. So eventually, we are going to be in the real red. So my question, and I'm very well aware of how the endowment fund gives us a percentage and all of that kind of stuff, but if it gets to a point where we are in real bracket need, is there a line somewhere in the bylaws of the endowment fund or in our bylaws where that line is? Do we have to be in bankruptcy? Do we have to, I mean, I'm just throwing this out. Is it defined when the endowment fund starts to, which is their purpose, is to help the church stay in perpetuity? When does that get triggered? If it gets triggered, and what does that look like? What kind of instruments does it use? Is it a loan? Is it just giving the money?
Your question's right on, okay? And currently, the bylaws of the two organizations do not provide for an ability for something like that to take care, to happen, okay? Which is one of the reasons that we're going to be reviewing and revising those aspects in the next couple of months, okay? That is something that's in process currently. At least we're beginning to get action. Your question's right on, okay?
Just a quick question. Looking at the overall trend, it's obviously going down in kind of an alarming way. I'm just curious, does the board, or is there, I guess it would be the board or whoever is in charge, who audits the expenses, and at what point is it come to like where you really start looking at well, what expenses are absolutely necessary, and who makes those decisions? Because it kind of seems like, I don't know, we're spending a lot more money than we're making or like bringing in, so it's a alarming trend.
All right, so first we start with the Finance Committee. So the Finance Committee works on the budget, sees what it is that we need, what it is that we might need to cut. That starts there, and with the recommendation of the Finance Committee, then the board will decide, okay, this is good, this is not good, just the things that you're talking about. So yes, the board has a hand in it, but it starts with the Finance Committee.
Is that happening?
Yes.
Yeah, let me say another thing, Drew, because you're right, there needs to be systems in place to evaluate that. And I hesitated to share this because it hasn't happened yet, and I hope to have it happen soon. We've talked about the Evolutionary Council. The Evolutionary Council is going to interview people and get ideas from people and transformation stories. That's the first part. The second part, so this is a few months out, that's why I hesitated to say anything. The second part, the second phase of the Evolutionary Council is to do an operational audit of everything we do on campus, to see where we're leaking energy, to see what is essential, to see what is it that is truly aligned with our mission. And that's a second portion of that. I believe there needs to be more things sooner in place, but just know there will be an operational audit of all of our ministry.
My suggestion, and it's just a suggestion, that take precedent over everything else.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. Yeah.
Thank you, Drew.
Yep, I'm with you.
Any other questions for the finance team or the treasury team? Okay. Thank you, Debbie. This is one of the things that helps the board and really the rest of us accomplish things, is to hear from you all, to know what it is that you're thinking and what you think might help, because we may not have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. Jerry has a few more answers than I do. But that's just because he's got a place on his head that all the answers can go into. So during the service, we do repeat our mission statement. And if you'd like to, you can repeat it with me now. Centered in God, we transform lives and inspire people to make a positive difference in our world. Our vision here at Unity Church is centered in God. We elevate global consciousness through the realization of oneness. Thank you. And we are the beloved community. On our next slide, it should show you what a lot of you have been asking for, which is who are our board members. So here is the current board of trustee members. And again, I'd like to welcome X Jones as our newest board member. It's part of that sacred service that we're talking about. If you want to be on the board, apply. March is the time. Next slide, please. Okay. I'm going to put on my armor and ask you if you have any questions. I need my God armor. I always need that armor. The Church of the Nazarene taught us that, right? Any questions, comments, answers to questions that you might have thought of?
Thank you. We had a gathering of people down in the courtyard with their artwork and crafts. I never heard how that did. Did we make money from that? My point being that I think for us to generate more income, the more involvement we have with the people, the deeper those roots will go, and more ownership. That, for me, that's the key to the church going. Is it really ownership, or are we just coming for a nice time?
It is ownership, and hopefully a nice time too. And yeah, it brought in some money, not a lot. I'm trying to remember. It seems to me like maybe it's $3,000 or $4,000 that came in. As I remember, I was looking at Debbie, and I don't have the figures right in front of me, but it did bring in something. And of course, Marcia, and I think they left, but Marcia and Lucy are going to have the fundraiser on August 23rd, so we can help support that. And, and then we'll have some other fundraisers along the way. So, but yeah, it is about building beloved community.
For this diamond necklace show, are we doing any media, neighborhood interaction, anything on the internet to let the outside world know?
Online, yeah, online. Yeah. And networking, yeah.
Sort of dovetailing on her question about community, you briefly touched on it about community outreach. I've heard like months ago that we were going to be doing more community outreach. I understand that we do our tithing and all of that stuff, which is great, but how about boots on the ground kind of outreach?
So there's a personal passion of mine, okay? You saw the list of people, of organizations we have contributed to. I'm going to go out and visit each one of them. I really believe in the law of circulation, and I really believe that as we increase our reaching out to those organizations and begin that work, that we will touch people. People will end up here. We'll find that we have new interests, we have new avenues to grow, and I think we'll have a bigger name in the community. So that's what I personally am going to be doing, and I really believe, and I've got the backing of the board who want to play with me in that endeavor also. So
Right, and we're going to be starting a more intentional LGBTQ ministry here. So there is outreach. We've been doing some outreach at Unity Hawaii, Manoa, and and I've been doing interfaith type outreach in the community. But in terms of concerted efforts, we're going to be doing more and more.
Can I make a suggestion, Jerry? Like if we maybe start with our community here, like she said, like, just in this geographic area, right up the street is Hugs, and then there's a Waikiki Health Center, youth at risk and all of that stuff. That's a perfect place then.
And there are a few other things. For instance, we have some festivities coming up in October with Pride Parade. We have Pride festivities. We have Day of Being Out, the Coming Out Day, at UH. And those are not things people have to participate in, but if you do, that kind of puts us out there to let people know we're here. Meaning the church, Unity Church is here.
So I'll be candid and say we don't have a concerted effort. All right, we have a lot of thoughts going on, and that's actually what I believe the Strategic Planning Committee is going to be taking on, is how to most effectively utilize our talents and time and treasure to be able to do outreach. Because we need a group to actually head that up, and we haven't had that here. I personally, it's purely a personal feeling, I believe we have not adequately done outreach. And that's over the course of about 30 years here. And it's just part of that, just the nature of where we are, It is, believe it or not. We would start outreach, but Waikiki is not a good environment for outreach immediately. It's not. We were very much a tourist organization. There was a time when the bulk of our income was actually Japanese weddings. We've been through a lot of changes, but we've never really focused on outreach. That's just not what we've done in this church since I've been here. And I would like to see us begin to change that a bit. We've done outreach. I'm not saying we haven't. We've done some really good outreach too, but we've never had continuity in that arena for us to really build upon.
Reverend Tony, you're still doing the prison ministry, right? No? Okay.
Almost 40 years. You know why I left?
Why did you leave?
I was twice a week, Halava and Waiava prisons for about 38 years, I think it was. And in the end of the services, we'd stand in we started with a daily word, and each man would go around and say what that word meant to them. And it was just really wonderful. It's the best time of my life. And at the end, we would stand in a circle and hold hands. No touching. Don't touch. Don't hug. I was rereading one of the emails today, and it said that when I shook hands with one of the men, there was somebody outside with a time stopwatch, and I held his hand 15 seconds too long. Can you imagine? So they put me on 2 months suspension for my bad behavior, and if I chose to come back, I would have to go through the training again. I've been there since 1985. I've been about 20 frigging training sessions. So, and I don't drive at night anymore, and that's when the training sessions were, but that's beside the point. So I said, I can't control myself. Those people are family to me, and I'm family to them. So I guess it's time for me to move on. So now I'm volunteering elsewhere. And speaking of that, Jerry, I would like to be on your team to support, go out and tell us what unity, all of us have a unity story. We all went someplace before here, most of us, and I would like to be on that list of speakers.
Thank you, Reverend Tony.
First, I want to commiserate with the board. I realize that we're having negative income operationally, but I know the board wants to have the kind of church that people would want to attend. And sometimes it means spending money to make that kind of church. And I also know it's not good to have a negative number every year. So that's not fun to have to deal with as a board, but I appreciate your struggle in that regard. Second, I want to, like Allison did, I want to suggest an organization that might be a good tithing organization for us. It might be a good outreach organization for us that you might be aware of, I think, Reverend Ten. Somebody mentioned your name there yesterday. And that's the Mindful Community of Oahu. They meet at the Chinese Cemetery in Manoa once every other month. And there are people there who I think share our philosophy and also might have some money. So that would be that might not be a bad, outreach organization. And everybody can use a little bit of a tithe to, help them spread their message. And I think their message, which is, if I can remember it correctly, many truths, many paths, one source, which doesn't seem all that different than who we are right here. Thank you, Ralph, for giving me this time.
Thank you, Jeff.
I just wanted to offer a short word of gratitude for the opportunity to serve on the Board of Trustees. Many of you know me from serving with Samar. I've been connected with this church for a long, long time, and there was a time when there were many, 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 many miles, 2 oceans in between me and this beloved community. And the opportunity to come and serve to a community that fed me for so long through those wires is a joy to my soul. I welcome the opportunity to serve, to participate, to help give legs to the ideas and the desires of this congregation, whether it be the outreach to the LGBTQ community or the various committees and ways that we can let people know that we are here and that we are a family of love doing great things, and we want to do more great things on this blessed island that we call home. So thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to the future.
Thank you.
You gotta stop because Rob got to water.
Reverend Tony did it. She did. She made me cry. Did anyone else have any other questions or comments? One of the things we were talking about for the outreach is this Thanksgiving, or if not this one, the next one, perhaps us either serving underprivileged a Thanksgiving meal or going out as Unity Church to help in the kitchens before we've had our meal. Give someone else theirs. So, all right. Well, if there are no other questions and no other comments, I would like to ask Reverend Margie if she would pray us out. And if we could all stand in a circle, we can hold hands or touch hips or whatever you're going to do as we sing Weave.
I love looking around the circle at the faces here. The love that's represented, the energy that holds good for this community and what we are called to be and do in our greater community. Thank you all for giving voice to that today. So in that energy, we touch and agree hand to hand, heart to heart, and in consciousness, we touch with the power that is alive within us, that is that infinite source. We say thank you, God, for inspiring us, for motivating us, for urging us forward into what we are called to do. Sometimes I'm really touched by the wisdom of Facebook memes. And one of my recent favorites said this piece of wisdom for all of us who have a calling to serve. If God has placed a calling on your heart, He has already factored in your shortcomings. So in spite of whatever limitations we may think we may hold as a community, as individuals, let us lay those down and live into the truth of the intelligence, wisdom, guidance, compassion, harmony, and absolute abundance that is ours for reaching out and taking, as Tim suggested today in the message. That infinite is alive in us, and we are here to be the willing hands, feet, and heart of God as compassionate presence in the world. Thank you for each one of you living into that space in the way you are called by the God of your being to serve. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Thank you for a wonderful meeting. Go out and surf well.